Hey, before we get into tonight's story, quick favor. If you're enjoying these weirdly specific bedtime dives into the dark corners of history, tap the like button, maybe subscribe. And I really want to know, what time is it for you? And where are you listening from? Drop a comment. It's wild seeing people falling asleep to this in all kinds of time zones. All right. Find a cozy spot. Wiggle your toes a little. Let your jaw unclench. No one's asking you to smile right now. Just sink back into the mattress, or the couch, or the floor. I don't know your life. And take a nice slow breath in and out. Because tonight, you're not in your apartment, or your house, or your whatever it is you sleep in. You're in the early 1800s, somewhere in what will one day become Illinois. Congratulations. You're an early Midwestern brothel worker. Specifically, you wake up in a place that is legally a boarding house, unofficially a parlor, and very obviously a don't ask too many questions establishment for men on the frontier. So, let's just start with your bed. It's technically a bed in that you're lying on it, and it's not the floor. The mattress is stuffed with hay, horsehair, and a faint, lingering smell of mildew that no amount of lye soap is going to fix. The quilt over you is heavy, stitched from scraps of old flannel and burlap sacks, and it smells like wood smoke, lavender, and sweat. The pillow? A canvas sack with some clumped up goose down in one corner, and nothing at all in the other. It's uneven. So is your sleep. You don't exactly get a full 8 hours here. Welcome to survival. The room is small. Too small for the two of you sharing it, but here you are. There's another woman snoring softly beside you, curled up in her own pile of scratchy bedding. Her name's Clara, probably. Or maybe she just goes by Clara because it's easier than explaining how she got here. The names don't always stick. You've been Ginny for a month now. You had a different name in Missouri. You'll have a new one if you make it to St. Louis. It's cold. Not cute flannel shirt cold. Not chilly fall air cold. We're talking damp, Midwest, no insulation, frost on the walls cold. The kind that makes your joints ache before you're even 25. There's a fire in the stove downstairs, but none of that heat has reached your room yet, and won't unless someone leaves the door open for long enough to let it sneak in. Which, of course, no one will, because cold costs wood, and wood costs effort. And you don't have much energy left for splitting logs after working late into the night pretending to enjoy whatever a man named Ebenezer thinks counts as intimacy. You sit up slowly. The shift of weight creaks the floorboards under you. You stretch, carefully, because pulling something in your back means lost income. There's no health insurance, no sick leave, no union. You are the union, and management, and HR. And you don't have time to deal with yourself right now. You wrap your shoulders in the same shawl you've been using since last winter, which means it's more holes than wool at this point. But hey, at least it's warmish. On the little table near your bed is a chipped basin with about a quarter cup of water left in the bottom. It's ice cold. You dip your fingers in it anyway and splash your face. It stings. Your breath catches. You feel slightly more alive, or more awake at least, which is the same thing for now. This is your morning routine. You don't meditate, you don't journal, you don't do affirmations. You splash water on your face, check that your teeth are still there, and try to remember if that ache in your ribs is from the cold or from the man last night who thought gentle was a suggestion. You reach under the bed for your boots. They're stiff with dried mud, and one has a mouse-nibbled hole near the sole. You jam your feet in anyway. The floor is too cold to go barefoot, And besides, you don't trust what's under these floorboards. You saw something skitter last night. You told yourself it was a rat. You hope it was a rat. You've been hearing stories about something else in the cellar. But that's probably just Clara trying to spook the new girls. There's a mirror nailed to the wall, cracked of course, and so cloudy with age you look like a ghost in it. You smooth your hair back with your fingers. It's greasy, but you'll wash it tomorrow. Maybe. Water's scarce. Soap's scarcer. You do the best you can with what's available, which is not a lot. And then it's time to head downstairs. You walk down the narrow stairs, careful not to make too much noise. The last thing you want is to wake the madam early. Mrs. Briggs is not a morning person, and when she's in a mood, she makes everyone else's day about 400% worse. She'll dock your cut for looking at her sideways. She once threw a girl out in her nightgown because she sneezed during breakfast. And in January, that's practically a death sentence. So yeah, tiptoeing. Downstairs smells like wood smoke and bacon fat and the faint leftover stink of whiskey, sweat, and last night's perfume. You don't hate the smell. It smells like money. Not a lot of it, but enough to keep you fed, clothed, and mostly alive, on good weeks. The common room is still dim, the fire in the stove just coals now. You get it going again with a little kindling and a lot of aggressive breathing. You're blowing on the fire like your rent depends on it, which is funny, because it does. You don't get paid by the hour. You get paid by the man. And if the house is cold and your hair's greasy and the biscuits are burned, men don't stick around. Which means fewer drinks, fewer visits, fewer coins in the bowl at the end of the night. So yes, the fire matters. You open the back door for just a second to dump the ash pan and immediately regret it. A blast of cold air punches you in the teeth. It's snowing again. The outhouse is just visible through the falling flakes, and you already feel your bladder give a little groan, but you decide to hold it. You're not emotionally ready for that walk yet. In the kitchen, Cook is already awake. Thank God. Her real name's Martha, but everyone just calls her Cook, mostly because she doesn't care and would probably swat you with a wooden spoon if you tried to call her Miss Anything. She's dumping something that looks like coffee into a pot. It's not coffee. It's roasted chicory root with a pinch of actual coffee grounds thrown in for dignity. It smells hot. That's good enough. She slides a tin cup across the counter to you without saying a word. That's love in this house. You take a sip and immediately regret it. Too hot, bitter, and somehow grainy. But you drink it anyway. It's going to keep you from passing out on your feet, which is all you really need right now. By now, the other girls are starting to come downstairs. Clara, still rubbing sleep from her eyes. Then Betsy, who hasn't said 10 full words since you got here 3 months ago, but who somehow always manages to look the cleanest and most composed out of all of you. She smells like mint. You hate her a little for it. There's also Jane, who's already in her corset. Jane is what Mrs. Briggs calls a hustler. She stays up late, gets up early, and knows exactly which men are passing through town and how many coins are in each of their pockets. You wouldn't be surprised if she's memorized every ledger in town. You don't like her either, but you respect her. Breakfast is biscuits mostly. Hard, chewy things made with leftover lard and a lot of hope. They're dense enough to knock out a squirrel if you threw one hard enough. You smear some apple butter on yours to hide the fact that it's 2 days old and a little moldy. You eat it anyway. Calories are calories. Also, chewing keeps your jaw from locking up in the cold. After breakfast, it's time to clean. The house might be full of vice, but it's not going to clean itself. and no one is paying for you to lounge around reading dime novels. Mrs. Briggs assigns chores by whatever invisible system she's using this week. Astrology, maybe, or just whoever annoyed her last. Today you get floors. You always get floors. You start sweeping the parlor. There's a dark stain in one corner you've been pretending not to notice for a while. You hope it's wine. You also find a single sock under the couch, a broken hairpin, and a poker chip from a riverboat casino that hasn't been seen around here in 6 years. You're tempted to keep it. Then you remember the last girl who tried to pocket something she found. She didn't last long after that. As you scrub, you start to warm up. Your back aches a little. Your fingers sting with the lye soap you're using, and your knees complain every time you kneel. But at least you're moving. Movement keeps you from thinking too much about how you got here, about what might be next, about how you were supposed to be somebody else once. The morning passes in a haze of scrubbing, folding, polishing, and occasionally stopping to sip lukewarm chicory brew. At one point, someone knocks at the back door. It's the ice delivery boy, just 14 years old and already hardened by more winters than you care to think about. You nod to him, tip him a coin from the tip jar, and drag the blocks into the ice box by yourself. Your arms will feel that later. You don't mind. Pain is proof you're still here. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the parlor mirror again. Hair tied back. Dress patched but presentable. Skin pale and a little dry from the wind. But you don't look broken. Just adjusted. Like a tool that's been sharpened too many times. There's still an edge, but you've lost some of your original shape. It's not even noon. Noon rolls around like a boulder down a hill, slow at first, then all at once, and with it comes the shift. The parlor starts to warm up, not just from the stove, but from movement, from purpose. Mrs. Briggs walks through like a general inspecting the troops. Her eyes scan every corner, every smudge, every wrinkle. She doesn't say much, she never does, but when she clears her throat, you know someone's about to get an earful. Today it's Clara. Her shoes aren't polished enough. Clara mutters something under her breath. She'll regret that later. You head back upstairs to change. You don't have a lot of outfits. No one here does. But the ones you have are carefully maintained. You've sewn the same hem 4 times. There's a stain on the bodice that won't come out, so you stitched a bit of lace over it and called it an accent. You don't dress for comfort. You dress for presentation. Men don't come here to see real life. They come here to forget theirs. You peel off your morning dress and pull on your working one. It's dark blue, fitted at the waist, with just enough neckline to suggest something interesting without giving away the whole story. You don't wear perfume. You dab a little vanilla extract behind your ears. It's cheaper, and it does the job. Then comes the corset. You hate the corset. Not just because it digs into your ribs and makes breathing a team effort, but because of what it represents, shaping yourself into something you're not, for someone else's benefit. But it also means better tips. So, you lace it up. Not too tight. You're not trying to pass out before dinner. Hair's next. You don't have much time, so you twist it up, pin it back, and smooth the flyaways with a bit of spit and oil. You used to care about how it looked. Now you care about whether it stays put. Downstairs, the men start to arrive. The first is a traveling salesman. You can tell by the suitcase and the way he smells like musty velvet and disappointment. He asks for Jane. Jane takes him without blinking. Then there's a local, someone you've seen before. He works at the sawmill, spends half his paycheck here, and the other half on bourbon. He never remembers your name, but he always tells you about his mother. You nod politely, sip your watered-down whiskey, and pretend to care. This is the job. Half listening, half acting, all survival. Eventually, he wants to go upstairs. You oblige. You keep your face soft, your eyes open, your voice light. You make him feel like a king, like he matters, like this moment is about him, not you. And then it's over, and he's thanking you like you saved his life, and you're wiping yourself down with a cold cloth in a freezing room, wondering what the hell he's going to tell his wife when he gets home smelling like cheap soap and shame. Back downstairs, cook brings out a stew. It's mostly potatoes and mystery meat. It's hot. You eat it standing up, one hand on the spoon, the other tugging at your corset to breathe. The bread is stale, but you dunk it in the broth and pretend it's fresh. You don't waste food here. The rest of the afternoon moves in a blur. More customers, some regulars, some new, some gentle, some not. One smells like onions and wants to talk about horses. One brings you a coin and asks to sit with his head in your lap, fully clothed, not touching, just quiet. That one doesn't bother you. You actually kind of like him. Evening starts to fall, and with it, the energy in the house shifts again. The oil lamps are lit. The girls repowder their cheeks. Music starts playing, a scratchy tune from the old fiddle in the corner. Clara sings a little. She has a soft voice. You forget that sometimes. The saloon next door gets louder. Laughter, boots stomping, glass clinking. And soon, the overflow starts to come in. Drunk men, loud men, flushed with coin and self-importance. They slap backs, bark greetings, and demand attention. This is the hard part, because you have to smile. Always smile. Even when they smell like sweat and rage. Even when their jokes aren't funny. Even when they say your name like it's a punchline. You smile because not smiling could mean getting grabbed, or worse. And if you're lucky, you'll make it through the evening without a bruise. If you're lucky, you'll get paid. By 10, your legs ache. Your face hurts from smiling. Your stomach is sour from the stew. You've seen 5 men, lied 100 times, laughed at things you don't even remember now, and you're still not done. At some point, late into the night, the rooms upstairs start filling faster than they empty. You've stopped keeping count. You stopped keeping count weeks ago. It doesn't matter now. A man is a man is a man. They blur together after a while. The names, the hands, the sighs, the ones who cry afterward, the ones who leave a coin, and the ones who don't. You're up in your room again with the last customer of the night. You don't know his name, but he calls you darlin', like it's a substitute for intimacy. He smells like pipe smoke and cheap cologne and something you can't quite place. Like rust, maybe. He's gentle, at least. Talks a lot. Tells you things you didn't ask to know. About the baby he lost. About the brother who drowned. About a girl he used to love in Ohio. Or maybe Kentucky. He's not sure anymore. He just wants to talk, mostly, and lie beside someone warm. You lie there next to him, not touching, staring at the ceiling. There's a crack running through the plaster shaped like a crooked river. You've memorized it. It's your landmark, your version of the stars. When he finally drifts off, you slide out from under the quilt, dress slowly, and head back downstairs barefoot. The floor is cold but smooth, worn from years of steps just like yours. The lamp in the hallway is down to its last sputtering wick. The silence of the house is heavy. This is the only time it's quiet. Everyone asleep or gone. The fire burned low. No voices, no stomping boots, no fake laughter. just stillness. You find yourself in the kitchen again, half hunched over the table, chewing a piece of leftover bread that's gone hard as a rock. You dip it in cold stew to soften it. It mostly works. Betsy's there, too. She doesn't say much, just pours you a cup of hot water, no tea left, and sets it down without a word. The two of you sit in silence for a long time. It's not uncomfortable, just spent. Eventually, the housekeeper, Mrs. Finch, shuffles through in her night robe to check the locks. She nods at you both, doesn't scold, doesn't tell you to get to bed. She's been here too long to bother pretending you're not human. You stand, stretch your arms over your head until something in your spine cracks loudly, and gather your shawl from the hook by the door. Upstairs again, in the half-dark, you peel off the dress. Your skin is raw at the seams, a mark on your collarbone you don't remember getting. Your feet ache from hours of standing, your thighs sore from too much use. You pull on your nightdress, it's threadbare but soft, and crawl into bed beside Clara. She doesn't stir. The mattress creaks. The quilt settles over you like 1,000 pounds of history. You stare at the ceiling again. The crooked river is still there. And for a moment, just a moment, your breathing starts to slow. You listen to the wind outside. The house creaks with its own aches and pains. You wonder what your life would have been like if you'd married the boy from your hometown. The one who joined the railroad crew. The one who said he'd write. He didn't. But that's not your life. This is. And it's not glamorous, or easy, or fun. But it's yours. You've lasted longer than most. You're 23, basically ancient in this business. The ceiling fades as your eyes close. You let your weight sink into the mattress. It's lumpy. It smells like smoke and linen and old regret. But it's warm. And for now, that's enough. Your breathing gets slower, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Nice and easy, that's it. You wouldn't last a day, you think, remembering what people outside the house say about women like you. You wouldn't last a day in here either, you want to whisper back. And this is just breakfast. Tomorrow, it'll start again. But for now, sleep. You're safe. For a few hours. You let the sounds of the sleeping house wrap around you like a second blanket. The creak of old wood, the sigh of wind through loose shutters, the soft rustle of fabric as Clara turns in her sleep beside you. Sleep comes slow, but it comes. And when it does, it holds you gently. Because God knows nothing else in this world does. Morning again. You wake before the sun, because your body doesn't wait for permission anymore. It just reacts. The same way it does when someone knocks a certain way on the parlor door, or when a man's voice dips just low enough to mean trouble. You're not thinking about that right now, though. You're thinking about how stiff your neck is from sleeping on a pillow that feels like it's stuffed with lumpy gravel and sawdust. You blink a few times in the dark, unsure whether it's still night or just that bleak moment before dawn. Either way, you're awake, and that means you're up. Clara's still out cold. Her mouth is slightly open, and she's snoring in that little half-whistle way she does when she's really tired. You envy her. She's got the kind of sleep you only get when your heart's too worn out to bother racing anymore. You throw your shawl around your shoulders and sit at the edge of the bed. Your feet touch the cold floor and you hiss through your teeth. The floorboards might as well be ice slabs. It's not just winter now, it's deep winter. The kind where the windows freeze over on the inside and your breath fogs up the room like you're sharing it with a horse. You shuffle across the room to the basin. The water's frozen solid. You crack it with the end of a spoon. The sound it makes is sharp, like something breaking inside your chest. You splash a little on your face, which is a mistake. It feels like slapping yourself with a brick. But hey, now you're fully awake. Great. You get dressed in the dark, pulling on the same wool stockings you've been wearing for 4 days. They're scratchy and damp near the toes. Your dress is stiff with cold and smells like old tobacco and sweat and perfume you can't afford anymore. You try not to breathe too deep while you lace yourself in. Downstairs, the kitchen fire is barely clinging to life. You open the iron door and poke at the coals with a stick, coaxing it back like you're begging an old friend to not give up just yet. It takes, barely, and you toss on some kindling until it spits and crackles like it's angry about being awake this early. Cook isn't here yet. You beat her for once. That means it's your job to start breakfast. You grab the flour tin and sigh. It's light. Too light. You know what that means. Stretching. Again. You mix what's left with water and bacon grease. Stir it with the same wooden spoon that's been hanging by the stove since before you arrived, and slap the dough onto the iron skillet. Biscuits. Sort of. They'll be dry. They'll taste like sadness, but they'll be hot. And that's more than nothing. You pull out a few old apples from the icebox. They're bruised and soft, and one has a worm in it. But you cut around the bad spots. You mash them down into something that could maybe pass for apple butter if no one asks too many questions. The girls start shuffling in. First Jane, looking like she's already had a full day even though the sun isn't up. Then Betsy, silent as ever, eyes puffy from who knows what. Clara follows, yawning and rubbing her eyes. No one talks. Not yet. Talking comes later, after the first hot drink. You pour yourself a mug of what Cook calls morning tonic, a mix of boiled water, old tea leaves, and a splash of last night's whiskey. It tastes like dirt and regret. You drink it anyway. The biscuits are done, hard as bricks. You hand them out one by one and sit at the table with the others, chewing slowly, trying not to crack a tooth. It's quiet, peaceful, in that grim, shared suffering kind of way. And then footsteps, heavy ones, men's boots, too early. You all freeze for a second. Mrs. Briggs comes in behind them, her lips tight, her eyes sharp. She gives you all a quick glance and barks something about entertainers and respectable company and don't screw this up. Turns out there's a group of land surveyors in town. Government men. Clean boots, pressed coats, polished buttons. The type that pretend they're above this place while sneaking in through the back door. They're seated in the parlor within minutes, talking big about railroads and maps and how cold it is outside. One of them makes a joke about warming up with some local hospitality. No one laughs. You smile anyway. You're paired with one of them. He's younger than most, nervous, probably new to this kind of place. His name is Thomas, or Timothy, or something with a T. He shakes when he hands you his coin. Upstairs, he talks too much, apologizes for being here, says something about how his mother would be ashamed. You nod, make small sounds of sympathy, and try not to think about your own mother. That doesn't help anyone. He's quick, awkward, gentle at least. And when he leaves, he thanks you 3 times and tries to hand you an extra coin, which you're not allowed to take. House rules. You take it anyway and tuck it under your mattress when no one's looking. Back down in the kitchen, the girls are finishing up the cleaning. Betsy found a pair of gloves someone left behind. They're too big for her, but she keeps them anyway. Clara's humming a hymn under her breath. She doesn't remember all the words. You wonder if she ever really knew them. And outside, snow is still falling. Thick, quiet, endless. You spend the afternoon mending things. Not dreams, not relationships. Just actual things. Ripped seams, busted petticoats. A curtain that tore when some idiot decided he could lean his full weight on a curtain rod during one of his more theatrical entrances. You sit on a stool in the corner with a tin of bent sewing needles, a spool of thread that's down to its last few wraps, and a small pile of broken dignity in fabric form. Your fingers are rough, cracked at the tips from soap and wind and use. You can't feel the needle half the time, which makes threading it a fun little game of blood and guesswork. You prick yourself twice before you even start the first stitch. You suck the blood off your thumb and keep going. The parlor is warmer now. The stove's doing its best, and you've got a shawl over your knees. Outside, the snow's let up a little, but not by much. The windows are streaked with frost. You can see your breath even indoors, but the warmth from the fire hits your face just enough to trick you into thinking you're not cold. Across the room, Clara's working on a hat. It's made from scraps, old ribbons, pieces of felt, a brooch someone left behind last month. She says she's going to wear it to church on Sunday. You remind her there is no church here. She says she doesn't care. Sometimes pretending is enough. You finish sewing the hem on a dress that probably shouldn't be salvaged at this point. It's got more patches than original fabric, but it'll hold together for another few weeks. That's all anything needs to do around here. Hold together. For now. The hours pass slow. The kind of slow that makes you forget time exists. There's no clock, no bells, just light changing on the walls and the sound of boots overhead when someone's in the rooms. Eventually, Cook brings out a tray with slices of cornbread and a pot of weak gravy. Dinner. You eat it without much thought, just the motions. Fork, chew, swallow, repeat. Then, out of nowhere, a crash. Something shatters in the hallway. You freeze. Everyone does. Jane's the first to move. She gets up, quietly but fast, and slips out the door. You follow a few seconds later. The hallway's dim, lit by a single lantern. At the far end, near the coat rack, there's a man on the floor, drunk, loud, angry, slurring something about being cheated. Mrs. Briggs is already there, stiff as a board, voice low and sharp. She's not yelling, she never yells, but her words cut like a whip. The man tries to stand, stumbles, and knocks over a spittoon. The smell hits you instantly. You gag quietly. You recognize him now. He's local. A farmer, maybe. Or a trapper. Been here before. Usually harmless, but sometimes a little too handsy when he drinks. Betsy moves past you and picks up the pieces of the broken lamp. You go to Clara, who's crouched beside the man now, talking to him softly, like you would to a spooked dog. He starts to calm down. A few more words, a hand on his shoulder, and he lets her help him up. He leans against her like she's the only solid thing in the world. Mrs. Briggs gestures toward the door with a tilt of her head. Two of the men from the saloon next door appear, like summoned demons. They help him outside, not gently, but not cruelly either. It's not the first time. Once it's quiet again, you return to the parlor. No one says anything. Clara sits down like nothing happened and goes back to her hat. Jane lights a fresh lantern. You go back to your mending. This is just part of it. The noise, the mess, The men who don't know where their edges are. You get used to it. Or you learn to pretend you do. The rest of the evening is uneventful. The usual parade of drink, flirtation, negotiation, stairs creaking under heavy boots. You see 4 men. One is polite, one is not. The other 2 are forgettable. You clean up after each one. You light a fresh candle. You tuck away the coins. Eventually, the front door closes for the last time. You peel off your dress, hang it on the hook, and slide back into your nightgown. Your hands are stained from ink and whiskey, and something you don't want to identify. You wash them in the basin, which is cold again, always cold. The water stings your skin, but you scrub anyway. You crawl into bed next to Clara, who's already asleep. She's got her hat on. You don't ask. You lie there in the dark, bones heavy, mind blank. You survived another day. That's enough. And tomorrow, you'll do it again. But for now, sleep. Let your breath slow. Let your muscles soften. Let the ache in your chest fade with each heartbeat. Just sleep. You're here. You're alive. And this mattress, for all its lumps and smells and creaks, is yours. That counts for something. The next morning, it's the same. The cold, the dull ache behind your eyes, the way your back feels like it was used to carry firewood all night in your sleep. You're not surprised anymore. Just mildly disappointed that it doesn't get any easier. You dress slower today. Not because you have time. No one here has time. But because your fingers don't want to work. They feel thick, like sausages left out in the snow. You massage them under your armpits until the feeling starts to come back. You've done this enough times to know the rhythm. Once your fingers stop stinging, you move. Today, your morning task is washing sheets. Lucky you. There's a tub behind the house. It's metal, rusting at the edges, filled with rainwater and slush, and a family of mosquitoes who probably have their own tiny brothel going. You break the top layer of ice and pour in some of the lye soap that Cook lets you borrow if you don't ask for too much. You scrub until your hands are raw. The sheets are stiff. Some are stained in ways you don't want to identify. Some are torn. You do your best with what you've got. Soap, elbow grease, and cursing under your breath. The sun rises slowly behind a haze of low gray cloud, offering just enough light to see how much dirt is still there. When you're done, you wring the sheets out and hang them on the line. They'll freeze before they dry. That's fine. You'll bring them inside later to thaw over the stove. You head back into the house, tracking mud across the back steps. Mrs. Briggs glares at the footprints, says nothing, and writes something down in her little black book. That's probably a half-day's pay gone. You don't even flinch. You're too tired to flinch. Today's one of the big nights. Riverboat's in. That means fresh money, fresh drunks, and a whole mess of men who think that paying for attention entitles them to respect they haven't earned. The girls are already getting ready. Jane is polishing her boots. Clara is cutting the lace off a pillow to sew onto her sleeves. You're oiling your hair with bacon fat because there's nothing else slick enough in the house, and at this point, dignity is a luxury. You iron your dress with a brick warmed on the stove. It works. Sort of. Cook's made soup. It's thin, mostly water, a few carrots, and something that might be squirrel. You eat 3 bowls of it because it's hot and it fills your belly. You'll need the energy. By dusk, the house is humming. You stand at your usual spot near the parlor door. You smile at men as they walk in, nod when they speak. Let them look at you. You've learned how to lean just right, how to tilt your chin in a way that says, interested, but not desperate. You've got the performance down to muscle memory now. A man tips his hat and asks your name. You give him one you haven't used in weeks. It doesn't matter. Names are like candles here, brief, flickering, and easily replaced. He buys you a drink. It's whiskey, watered down, but warm. You sip it slow. He talks about his journey upriver. You ask questions you already know the answers to. He laughs too loudly at your jokes. You rest your hand lightly on his arm, the same way you've done 100 times. Eventually, he asks to go upstairs. You say yes. You always say yes. He smells like river mud and pipe smoke. His hands are rough but not cruel. He pays in full. He even thanks you. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. After, you sit on the edge of the bed while he buttons his coat. You don't look at him. He doesn't look at you. He leaves without saying goodbye. You strip the sheets, tie them in a bundle, and set them by the door. Back downstairs, someone's broken a chair. Betsy's trying to glue it back together with pine sap and string. Jane is laughing with a man who looks like he's slept in his coat for a week. Cook's got her sleeves rolled up and her hair tied back with a rag, stirring a pot of beans like it's a ritual. You take a deep breath and walk through the parlor, nodding at the newcomers, slipping back into the rhythm. Step, smile, lean, pour, laugh, repeat. All night, like clockwork. And then, finally, silence. Again. You strip out of your dress and scrub the makeup off your face with a cloth that smells like old soap and perfume and sleep. You wash the day away in cold water, towel off with something that was once a curtain, and climb into bed. Clara's already snoring. You lie on your back, stare at the ceiling, and trace the same cracks with your eyes. Your hands hurt. Your legs hurt. Your eyes sting. But you're warm. You're alive. You made it through another day. And tomorrow, the whole thing starts again. Just like always, sleep now. You need it. Snow's falling again when you wake up. You hear it before you see it. That faint hiss of wind through the cracks in the shutters. The soft tap of flakes hitting the sill. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath. It's a Sunday, not that it means rest. There's no such thing here. There's only slow or busy, and even the slow days hurt. You sit up slowly, knees popping, shoulders aching. The air in the room bites at your skin like it has something to prove. Clara's still bundled under the quilt like a burrito made of rags. You don't wake her. She had a long night. You all did. Your toes hit the floor and you wince. The boards are colder than usual. Your breath fogs in front of you. You wrap your shawl tighter around your shoulders and shuffle to the window. It's iced over, but you rub a little patch clear with the side of your hand. White. Everything white. Snow piling up on the fence posts, on the roof of the barn out back, on the old chicken coop that hasn't seen a chicken in years. Even the outhouse looks dignified under a fresh coat of powder. You know what this means. Frozen boots, wet skirts, fewer men stumbling in from the saloon. Could be a quiet day. Or it could mean the ones who show up are twice as drunk and half as patient. Hard to say. Downstairs, the stove's already going. Cook beat you to it today. She's muttering to herself, chopping onions with the kind of precision that suggests she's imagining each slice as someone's face. You don't ask. You just nod, grab a cup, and pour yourself some hot water. She's made something resembling porridge, oats maybe, or cracked corn. It's thick, gray, and steaming. You add molasses and pretend it tastes good. It doesn't, but it sticks to your ribs, and right now, that's all you care about. You sit at the kitchen table, cradling the warm cup in your hands, watching your breath curl in the air. Betsy comes in a few minutes later, her hair braided down her back, eyes sleepy but alert. Jane shows up after that, already dressed, already painted, already smiling that smile that means she's in her work skin now. No one speaks for a while. That's the thing about this place. Silence isn't awkward. It's necessary. It's space to breathe, to think, to pretend for a few minutes that you're just people in a house, not women in a system. Eventually, someone knocks on the front door. Too early for business. You frown, set down your cup, and go to answer it. It's a young boy, maybe 11, covered in snow, cheeks flushed, holding a letter in his bare hands. He's shivering. "Mrs. Briggs," he says, holding it out. "From the judge." You take the letter, give him a piece of bread and a coin, and watch him run back down the street. Poor kid. You know that look. It's the look of someone trying not to cry because crying doesn't help. You hand the letter to Mrs. Briggs without opening it. She reads it at the kitchen table, face like a stone, then tucks it into her coat and says, "We'll need more wood." You don't ask what it said. Later that morning, you do laundry again. This time inside, thank God. The tub is pulled close to the fire and cooks boiling water in the big kettle. You mix in soap, scrub the linens with a brush, wring them out with your hands. Your knuckles are red and raw. Water sloshes onto the floor, and you mop it up with a towel that used to be a curtain. Clara's sewing in the corner, singing under her breath. A lullaby, maybe. Something soft and southern. You don't recognize the words, but the tune sticks in your ribs. Jane joins in on the chorus. Even Betsy hums a little. You don't sing, you just listen. It's peaceful, in a strange way. The fire, the steam, the quiet music. For a second, it doesn't feel like a brothel. It feels like a home, a cold, cramped, underfed home. But still, around noon, the snow starts to ease up. A man knocks. He's older, polite. Asks for someone, not too loud. Mrs. Briggs sends you. He doesn't talk much. Just sits on the bed and takes off his boots. You notice the hole in his sock, the way his fingers tremble. He asks if he can just sit with you. You say sure. You lie beside him, fully clothed. His hand rests on your hip, light as paper. He doesn't move, just breathes. After a while, he falls asleep. You stay there until he starts to snore. Then you ease yourself out from under his arm, cover him with a blanket, and slip out the door. He leaves a silver dollar on the nightstand. You leave it there. Downstairs, Jane is helping cook peel potatoes. Clara's sweeping. Mrs. Briggs is scribbling in her ledger. Everything is normal. Everything is the same. You join them. Potatoes peel easy when your hands are warm. You get into a rhythm. Peel, flick, drop. Peel, flick, drop. You catch Jane looking at you. She doesn't say anything, just nods once. You nod back. It's not much, but it's something. Night comes early in the winter. By 4 o'clock, the light's already fading, and the whole world outside turns blue. That kind of deep, quiet blue that seeps into your bones. You know it's going to be another long night, not because there's a line at the door. There isn't. But because the stillness outside means every sound inside feels louder. A cough echoes like a shot. A dropped spoon sounds like thunder. Even your own breathing feels intrusive. The girls are getting ready. Again. Getting ready is half the job, and somehow, still the hardest part. You curl your hair using hot rags, pinch your cheeks for color, and draw a faint line along your eyes using the burnt end of a matchstick. You look in the mirror, tilt your chin, smile. It's not you, exactly. It's the version of you that gets through the night. The one with smoother skin, softer eyes, sweeter words. The one who doesn't wince when someone calls her baby in a way that's meant to shrink her. You pull on your evening dress, the blue one, the one that almost still fits right, the one you patch after every weekend but can't bear to replace. You run your fingers over the fabric where it's worn thin near the hips, a reminder that even cloth has a limit. Downstairs, the parlor is warm. Lamps are lit. The fire is steady. The curtains are drawn. Everything has that low golden glow that makes things feel softer than they are. Like the light is a trick meant to make everyone forget what the place looks like in the daylight. Mrs. Briggs is standing by the piano, talking to one of the new girls. You don't know her name yet. She just arrived last week. Red hair, nervous smile. She still wears gloves inside, like that'll keep the place off her skin. You give it a month. The first customer tonight is a man from out of town. He smells like leather and new wool, has a wedding ring, but no shame. Calls you honey, like you're some little thing he picked up at the store. You laugh at his jokes. You lean in close. You touch his arm lightly when you hand him a drink. Upstairs, he fumbles, apologizes, fumbles again. He leaves money on the table and tells you you're too good for this. You've heard that one before. It's not a compliment. It's a dodge. A way of saying, I still get to use you, but I want to feel noble about it. You take the money anyway. Downstairs, Jane is playing cards with a man in a railroad uniform. She's winning, obviously. Clara's playing the piano, something soft and slow. Betsy is reading a torn book in the corner, eyes flicking up every time someone new enters the room. You sit by the fire and warm your hands. Cook brings you a slice of cornbread. It's stale. You eat it in 3 bites. A man comes in, tall, quiet, looks around like he's searching for something he lost. When he locks eyes with you, something about his face makes your stomach twist. Not fear, just recognition. He used to be someone. You don't know who, but someone. He asks for your company. You say yes. He doesn't go upstairs, just asks to sit with you on the settee, near the fire, and talk. So you talk, about nothing, about weather, about the way the snow makes everything quiet. He tells you he used to live in Chicago, that he left when the smoke got too thick, that he misses the sound of trolley bells and the smell of roasting nuts on the street. You tell him about a tree you climbed once as a child, the way the bark tore your hands and the wind tried to throw you off, and how, when you reached the top, you saw the whole world spread out in green and gold. Neither of you says what you really mean, but it's something. Eventually, he leaves. No money. Just a thank you. You don't mind. Not tonight. You head back upstairs. Your feet heavy. Your shoulders aching. In the mirror, you look tired. Really tired. You wipe off the paint, pull the pins from your hair, and let it fall around your face. You undress slowly. Your ribs are sore. Your legs are bruised. You trace the curve of your own arm like it belongs to someone else. You slide into bed. Clara's already there, snoring softly. You curl toward the wall, pull the quilt to your chin, and close your eyes. And again, the same thought drifts across your mind. You wouldn't last a day, but somehow, here you are. Still here, still breathing. Still you. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes, and that's enough. You wake to a sound you don't recognize. Not boots, not shouting, not the usual creak of boards or the groan of the stove. This is sharper, quicker, like tapping, like something knocking against the side of the house. You lie still for a moment, waiting, listening. It happens again, then again. Then it stops. You blink the sleep from your eyes. The room's still dark, but there's a pale blue glow leaking in around the edges of the shutters. That kind of cold, cloud-muted light that means dawn is close, but not quite here. Clara stirs beside you and grumbles something unintelligible. You slip out of bed, wrap your shawl around your shoulders, and open the shutters just enough to peek out. Ice. Sleet, actually. Frozen rain pinging off the wood, collecting on the steps, crusting over everything it touches. The street is glass. The outhouse looks like a sugar sculpture. The air itself seems to crackle. And it's still coming down. You close the shutters and exhale. Slow. Today's going to be bad. Sleet means no men, no horses, no boots stomping in from the saloon, eager and drunk and full of noise. No coin, no heat. You dress quietly, your fingers stiff. You manage your underthings and your dress and your shawl, but you skip the corset. Not today. You won't need it. You already know this house is going to be cold, quiet, and tense. In the kitchen, Cook is boiling water, hunched over the pot like she's guarding it. Her breath clouds around her face, and her hands are wrapped in rags. There's barely any wood left by the stove. She glances at you, then at the fire, and shrugs. "Gotta make it stretch," she says. You nod. Jane is wrapped in a quilt, sitting on a stool, sipping something that might be tea, or might just be hot water and a lie. She doesn't say anything, just gives you a look. That look says, "We're not eating much today." That look says, "We're on our own." Clara joins you a few minutes later, moving slow, blanket still wrapped around her like she's protesting the very idea of vertical living. She mutters something about frostbite and flips you off when you smile at her. You sit at the table with a bowl of yesterday's stew. It's cold, but it's food. You eat it without complaint. Mrs. Briggs comes in around mid-morning, coat pulled tight, boots dripping, face like stone. "There won't be business today," she says flatly, like she's announcing the weather. "We'll stay closed. No visitors. Stay warm. Stay useful." Then she disappears upstairs, where it's not any warmer, but at least quieter. So you stay useful. You clean. You dust shelves no one looks at, polish glass that never shines, sweep floors that never stay clean. Clara scrubs out the basin. Jane rehangs the curtains. Betsy goes through the linens to see what's still worth mending. You don't speak much. The silence is thicker than the cold. It clings to your bones. By midday, you're all back in the kitchen, crowded around the stove like it's the sun. You talk about nothing. The weather, the way the stew tasted less awful than usual, a dream Clara had about getting on a boat and ending up in Mexico. None of it matters, but it passes the time. You bring your mending basket to the parlor and sit by the window. You patch a dress sleeve. You fix a button. You pretend not to notice how quiet it is upstairs. You catch yourself staring out the window. No one's coming. You know that. But you look anyway. The afternoon stretches out like a long, aching yawn. No customers. No noise. No money. You pull a thin blanket over your lap and stitch until the light fades. Supper is dry bread and boiled carrots. You eat every bite. Later, someone brings out a deck of cards. You play a few rounds. Clara cheats. Jane pretends not to notice. Betsy wins every hand and says nothing about it. The stove burns low. The wind picks up. You all curl into your corners like cats, wrapped in whatever warmth you can find. Someone starts singing, barely above a whisper. A hymn, maybe, or just a tune they made up. It drifts through the parlor like smoke, and for a while, it almost feels like something holy. You go to bed early, not because you're tired, but because there's nothing else to do. You strip down under the quilt, still wearing your stockings, and lie there listening to the house breathe. No footsteps tonight. No knocking. Just the creak of cold beams and the rattle of icy wind. Your body aches in places that don't have names. But you're warm, and that's enough. Sleep now. You survived another day. And that's more than most people get. The next morning, your breath fogs before your face while you're still lying down. That's how you know it's cold. Before your feet even hit the floor, your own lungs are telling you you should have stayed in bed. But of course you don't. You never do. Your toes curl instinctively when they meet the floorboards, and you hiss through your teeth as you shuffle into your boots. You pull your shawl tighter, wrap your hair in a scarf that smells like old soap and maybe onions, and head downstairs before the sun has even considered showing its face. Cook is already up, feeding a log into the stove like it's a sacred ritual. Her face is pink from the cold, and she's wearing 2 aprons layered over a coat. You nod. She grunts. That's your morning conversation. The biscuits she's making are dense and gray and shaped like uneven bricks. You grab one, dip it into whatever's in the pot, and chew. It's hot. It's chewy. It stays in your stomach. That's all that matters. Jane comes in with a red nose and wet hair. She says she poured out the chamber pot and nearly slipped on the back steps. You all nod, like that's exciting news. Clara drags her blanket into the kitchen and sits near the stove like she's staking a claim. Betsy's still upstairs, probably crying. Probably not. There's a sound at the door. You all freeze. It's too early for business. Too quiet for trouble. Mrs. Briggs opens it. A mailman stands there, shivering like a leaf. He hands her a letter and a package. She gives him a curt nod and slams the door shut before the cold can settle in. She walks through the kitchen without a word, heading upstairs. The package is wrapped in newspaper and twine. Clara stares at it as it goes by like it might explode. "What do you think it is?" she asks. "Something boring," Jane mutters. "Something heavy and boring." You finish your biscuit and go fetch the mop. It's Monday. That means floors. The parlor's muddy from boots that came in last night. Someone spilled wine, or juice, or blood. You don't ask. You just mop. The rug is damp. The settee smells like wet dog. One of the cushions is torn open at the seam, and someone stuffed it with crumpled paper. It'll have to do. You make the fire. You set the chairs. You fluff the pillows like any of it matters. By noon, the stove is working hard enough that the icicles on the window frame have started to drip. It's almost warm inside. Almost. Mrs. Briggs calls a meeting. That never means anything good. You gather in the parlor. The curtains are closed. The fire pops loudly. She stands near the hearth, arms folded. Her voice is calm and cold and quiet. "There's a traveling judge in town," she says, "and a reverend." She says it like she's naming snakes. They're talking about a crackdown. She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't have to. You all know what it means. Raids, closures, fines, threats, scare tactics. Men pretending they don't visit here, showing up with badges and pretending this place is a sin they've never tasted. "We'll stay quiet," she says. "Low profile. No noise. No drinking out front. No shouting. No lights in the upstairs windows. If they ask, we're a boarding house." Jane snorts. "Boarding what, exactly?" Mrs. Briggs doesn't smile. You nod. Later, you help hang darker curtains upstairs. You take down anything shiny. Clara hides her jewelry in a tin under the floorboard. You stuff the lace pillows into a trunk and replace them with gray ones. By evening, the house looks plain, sad even, like a widow trying to behave at church. The men still come, of course. They always do, one at a time, quiet, careful. No laughing tonight, no piano, just soft voices and the rustle of skirts. Your client is a man you've seen before. He smells like cloves and cedar. He takes his boots off at the door. He says please and thank you and doesn't make eye contact. You get through it. He leaves a coin and a wrapped candy on the table. You pocket both. You lie in bed later, curled around your own arm, listening to the wind. It howls tonight, high and sharp, like it's peeling the roof back. The fire's gone out. Clara's blanket is half on the floor, and she's snoring with her mouth open. You reach down, pull the blanket back up, and tuck it under her chin. She doesn't stir. You settle back. You feel your ribs rise and fall under the quilt. In, outside, in, outside. That's it. You survived another Monday. You did what needed doing. You stayed useful. You stayed invisible. You're still here. Sleep now, while it's safe. The next morning, the stove won't light. You try 3 matches, then 5, then 1 more just for spite. The coals are wet somehow, not soaked, but damp enough to hiss at you like you've offended them. You swear under your breath, step back, and let Cook elbow you out of the way. She mutters something about ash and fools and useless kindling, then slams the stove door shut and storms off to get more wood, which means it's freezing. You can see your breath in the hallway. Your feet are numb through your stockings, and your dress feels like it was ironed with frost. You wrap your shawl tighter and rub your arms, trying to convince your blood to move faster. It doesn't. Upstairs, the girls are still asleep or pretending to be. You can't blame them. There's nothing waiting for you today but chores, aching knees, and more pretending. You decide to start laundry. Again. Always laundry. You fill the basin with water from the back barrel. It's slush. You carry it inside in a tin bucket, dump it over the coals to steam off the ice, and stir in a bar of soap shaved down to the size of your thumb. The water turns cloudy. Your hands sting before you even start. You scrub with a rhythm. Press twist. Rinse, wring, repeat. Your knuckles bleed a little. You ignore it. It's just another morning. You hang the sheets over chairs and windowsills and the back of the couch. Everything in this house smells like smoke and wet cotton and tired women. Betsy joins you an hour later, her sleeves rolled up and her eyes still half closed. She doesn't say anything, just picks up the next dress and starts scrubbing. You appreciate that about her. She doesn't waste time trying to make anything seem better than it is. By the time the fire finally catches, your hands are red and raw, but at least they're warm. Cook hands you a bowl of cornmeal mush with a little bit of molasses on top. It tastes like glue, but sweet glue. You eat every bite. The knock on the door comes just after noon. Mrs. Briggs answers it. You don't see who it is, but her voice drops low. She's careful, professional. You catch a glimpse of a tall man with a scarf pulled up to his nose, a badge on his belt. Sheriff. You and the girls pretend you're not watching from the parlor. He stays 10 minutes, leaves without touching anything. You all exhale like someone's been holding your lungs hostage. Jane mutters, snake checking its hole. Mrs. Briggs says nothing, just closes the door, bolts it, and disappears back into her office. You spend the afternoon polishing the furniture. With what? Nothing. Just a rag and the hope that smudging dirt in circles will pass as cleaning. Betsy mends a pair of gloves. Clara braids her hair like she's going to a party she wasn't invited to. Jane scrubs the baseboards. None of you speak much. The quiet feels like armor. You get one visitor tonight. He's young, nervous, wants to talk. You listen while he stammers through a story about missing a train and ending up in town by accident. He keeps saying he's not like those men. You smile and nod. He leaves a dime. You tuck it into the jar with the rest. At bedtime, you undress slowly, like your joints are made of tin. Your back cracks when you bend. Your stomach growls when you lie down. You pull the quilt up to your nose and stare at the ceiling. It's the same ceiling you've stared at for months. Cracked, yellowed, with a knot of wood above your bed that looks like a sleeping cat, or a face, or maybe just a knot. You've never been sure. You close your eyes, count your breaths. Let your fingers curl into the blanket. Let the day go. Tomorrow will be colder, harder, quieter. You'll manage. You always do. But for now, sleep. Just sleep. The snow melts overnight. Not all of it, but enough to turn the road outside into a long gray ribbon of slush, deep enough to drown a boot and mean enough to soak through your stockings in a single step. You can hear the drip, drip, drip of thawing icicles tapping against the window like impatient fingers. It's a different kind of miserable today. Not the quiet, beautiful kind of cold. This one's sloppy, wet, loud. Everything smells like wet wool and dirt and things that used to be frozen but aren't anymore. The house feels heavier in this weather, like the walls are absorbing the moisture and breathing it back out through the wallpaper. Your dress is still damp from where you hung it too close to the door. You pull it on anyway. It clings like a wet rag and smells like old soap and mildew. You pinch your cheeks for color and rub a little lamp black under your eyes to look more awake than you feel. The parlor's full of half-dry laundry and that swampy smell that comes from too many damp clothes and not enough sunshine. Cook cracks open a window for air and immediately slams it shut again when the wind howls in and knocks over a pitcher. You sip your tea, barely more than warm water with a hint of peppermint, and eat 2 stale biscuits from yesterday's tray. You chew them slowly, not because they're good, but because they're hard and take effort. That's breakfast. You don't complain. There's nothing to compare it to. Clara's trying to patch her boots. The sole came loose yesterday and now flaps like a fish every time she walks. She's using thread, spit, and blind optimism. You admire her persistence. Betsy is sketching something on a scrap of paper. You don't ask what. It's probably another one of her schemes to make enough money to leave. Or maybe it's just a face she remembers. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between hope and distraction. Jane is brushing her hair in long, slow strokes, staring into the fire like she's daring it to go out. And Mrs. Briggs? Nowhere to be seen. Which is never good. Just before noon, you hear shouting outside. Not angry shouting, not drunk shouting, preacher shouting. That sing-song kind of voice that rides on the wind and always comes with the promise of judgment. You move to the window and peek through the lace. He's young, red-faced, wet from the rain but loud enough to wake the dead. He's got a Bible in one hand and a pamphlet in the other. He's shouting about fire, about purity, about sin and the soft path to hell paved in feminine lies. You sigh. The girl's grown. It's one of those days. You duck back from the window just in time to hear Cook throw a ladle into the sink and say, "I swear to God, if he comes near my doorstep, I'll baptize him in grease." He doesn't, of course. He just stands on the corner shouting for an hour until the rain soaks him through and his voice gives out. Then he limps down the road like a deflated balloon. But he leaves behind something worse. Rumors. You hear the whispers when the first men come in that evening. Quiet, nervous, avoiding eye contact. One leaves as soon as he sees Clara in the hallway, muttering something about bad timing. Another tells you he can't stay long. Someone saw him walking toward the house and he doesn't want trouble. Trouble. As if you bring it. As if it doesn't come in the front door wearing boots and carrying coins. Only 2 customers tonight. Both silent. Both quick. Both gone before the lamp even burns halfway down. You clean yourself in cold water again. Your hands are shaking as you pull on your nightgown. Not from fear. Just cold. Just tired. Maybe both. You lie down with the quilt pulled to your chin and your arms crossed over your chest like you're already in a coffin. You stare at the dark until it stares back. You try not to think about the preacher, about fire, about hell. You think about tomorrow instead. About warm bread, about a dress that fits, about waking up and not feeling like someone filled your lungs with stones. The wind knocks on the shutter again. Not gentle, but you're used to that sound now. You close your eyes, breathe, let it pass. You wouldn't last a day, they say. But here you are, still warm, still breathing, still here. Sleep now. We'll try again tomorrow. The rain doesn't stop. Not for hours. Not all night. Not into the next morning. It just keeps falling, slow and steady, like the sky's leaking grief, one drop at a time. By the time you wake, the whole world feels soggy. Your pillow's damp from the air alone. Your hair sticks to your cheek. Even your dreams feel wet. You sit up slowly. Your back aches. Your feet are cold. You twist your neck and feel something pop that probably shouldn't. There's a drip in the ceiling now. A slow, soft tap above your bed, landing somewhere near your feet. You roll over and groan. Clara's still out cold, snoring into the crook of her elbow. her arm flung dramatically over her face like a fainting duchess. She always looks peaceful when she sleeps. You don't know how she does that. You get dressed while the room shivers around you. The walls are sweating. The floors are slick. Everything feels like it's been left out in the rain. You pull your dress over your shoulders, tug your shawl tight, and step into the hallway. The floorboards creak like old bones. The kitchen smells like damp wood and overboiled potatoes. Cook is half asleep at the table with a cup of black coffee between her hands and a scowl so deep it could hold soup. She doesn't say anything. She just nods at the stove and grunts, which you interpret as, "Make yourself useful." You stoke the fire with a wet log that hisses like it's protesting the entire concept of combustion. It catches, eventually, barely. Jane shuffles in next, barefoot, hair wild, wrapped in her shawl like she's been hiding from the rain in a barn. She pours herself some of whatever's left in the pot and grimaces after the first sip. "Burnt," she says. Cook shrugs. "It's hot." You eat the potatoes. They're soft, tasteless, warm. That's enough. No one comes to the door today. Not by morning, not by midday, not even by dusk. No boots, no carriages, no voices. The world outside has vanished behind a veil of gray water and sagging clouds. So you clean. Again. You sweep the front hall. You polish the doorknob with the hem of your sleeve. You rearrange the parlor chairs for the third time, even though no one will notice. Betsy patches a hole in the wall with newspaper and starch paste. Clara rewrites the chalkboard menu, even though there's no dinner service. It's busy work, all of it. But it keeps your mind from wandering too far into the quiet. Sometime in the afternoon, Jane starts reading aloud from a magazine she found behind the wardrobe. It's 4 years old and missing half its pages, but she reads it like it's scripture. Fashion advice from New York. Corset reviews. An article about a new marvel of hygiene. A toothbrush made of boar bristle. You all laugh at that one. Until you remember none of you have seen a new toothbrush in 2 years. The laughter stops. By evening, the house feels heavier than usual. Even the air is tired. You sit by the stove with your feet on a brick and your hands wrapped around a mug of lukewarm tea. You stare into the fire and try to remember the last time someone called you by your real name. You can't. That realization settles over your chest like a wet wool blanket. The only sound is the drip from the roof. Tap, tap, tap. Someone, maybe Clara, starts humming again. That same slow tune from before. It fills the room like steam, curling into the corners, soft and shapeless. You close your eyes. You imagine sun, dry grass, a porch swing, someone handing you a peach and telling you there's nowhere to be but right here. It's not real, but it helps. Tonight, you don't undress. You just curl up on the bed, fully clothed, shawl over your face, boots still on. You can hear the rain on the roof. You let it carry you. This isn't peace, but it's something like quiet. And quiet is gold. Sleep now. There's nothing more to do. You've done enough. You are enough. Morning doesn't come so much as it just arrives. There's no sunshine, no birds, no warm glow spilling across your pillow like something out of a nice dream. Just gray, just damp. Just that familiar sore, stiff ache in your neck that lets you know your body did not, in fact, appreciate being curled like a dead insect all night on a half mattress with a lump in the middle. You peel your shawl off your face and blink at the ceiling. The drip's still there, louder now, like it's growing in confidence. There's a small puddle near your foot, soaking into the sheet like an unpaid debt. You'll need to move the bed again. You groan, sit up, and swing your legs over the side. The floor is somehow colder than it was yesterday. Clara is already gone, her side of the bed a mess of blankets and damp linen. You can hear her voice downstairs, laughing at something. A good sign, maybe. Or maybe she's just losing her mind slower than the rest of you. You pull on your boots and button your dress with stiff fingers. By the time you reach the kitchen, Jane's already poking at a pan of something on the stove. Smells like cornmeal and burnt hope. She scrapes it onto a plate and hands it to you without looking. You nod in thanks. She doesn't respond. Cooks in the corner, sharpening her knives. You don't ask. No one asks. You sit at the table and eat. Slowly. The crust is like leather, but it's hot, and your stomach doesn't care about texture. Today feels heavy. Not in a big, dramatic way. Just in that quiet, slow-motion sort of way where everything takes more effort. Where lifting your spoon feels like pulling a wagon uphill. There's no work yet. No visitors. You sweep the hall again. Third time this week. You rinse out handkerchiefs in a tin basin. You mop the parlor floor even though it's not dirty. Just to feel like you're doing something. Then, late morning, there's a knock. Not loud, not frantic, just polite. You open the door. It's a man with a long coat and a hat pulled low. Not a stranger, but not someone you know well either. He hands you a folded envelope and says, "For Mrs. Briggs." You take it. Nod. He leaves without another word. You close the door slowly, like something might follow him in if you're not careful. The envelope is heavy, wax sealed. You bring it to Mrs. Briggs, who's sitting in her office surrounded by ledgers and the kind of silence that could slice glass. She doesn't thank you. She just breaks the seal, reads it, and sighs like someone just told her winter was going to last another 6 months. You go back to folding linens. It rains again in the afternoon. Not much, just a drizzle, thin and misty. It clings to the windows and paints everything outside in shades of gray and regret. The lamps are lit early. By 4 o'clock, the parlor looks like it's ready for a wake. One customer tonight. Young, nervous, the kind that says "ma'am" too much. You offer him tea. He says thank you 3 times. You bring him upstairs. He doesn't touch you. He just sits on the edge of the bed and tells you about a girl he used to know. Said she had hair like copper and a laugh that made people look up from their books. You nod, like you know her. Maybe you do. Maybe you were her. You sit together until he stands up, digs a crumpled bill from his coat, and presses it into your hand without meeting your eyes. You walk him downstairs. He leaves into the mist. You stay at the door long enough to see him disappear into the fog. Later, Jane plays a song on the piano. Something sad, something slow. You don't know the name, but it fits. Cook brings out a pan of baked apples, and you each get one. It's hot and tart, and tastes like something from a memory that doesn't belong to you. You eat it slowly, letting the warmth stretch all the way to your toes. When it's time to sleep, you don't bother with the fire. You just crawl into bed, pull the blanket to your chin, and lie still. The rain ticks against the roof like fingers drumming on a table. You let it. You stare at the ceiling knot. It still looks like a cat. You smile, barely. You're still here. And for tonight, that's enough. Sleep now, before the roof caves in. You wake to silence. Not the good kind. Not the peaceful, birds chirping, sunshine on the floor kind. The other kind. The thick, suffocating kind of silence that feels like it's waiting for something. Like the house itself is holding its breath. You lie there a minute, listening. No footsteps, no kettle boiling, no Jane humming off key in the hallway, no Clara clomping around in those heavy boots that squeak when they're wet. Just stillness. You sit up slowly. Your neck pops. Your shoulders groan. Your mouth tastes like old copper and cold air. You run your fingers through your hair and wince when they catch on a knot the size of a walnut. The room is dim, damp. The puddle near the bed has dried into a stain. You wrap your shawl around your shoulders and move toward the door, bare feet slapping against the cold floor. Downstairs, you find the reason for the silence. Mrs. Briggs is gone. Her coat, her boots, her ledger. Gone. Not a word, no note. Just her empty chair at the desk and the fireplace still warm, like she left 10 minutes ago and forgot she wasn't coming back. Cook stands in the doorway, holding a pot of coffee like it's the only solid thing in the room. Jane sits on the arm of the couch, one eyebrow arched, chewing on a strip of dried apple like it's beef jerky. She's gone, Jane says. Took the money, too. No one's crying. You're not sure what that says about any of you. Clara just blinks a few times and says, "Well, hell." You sit down at the kitchen table. The chair wobbles like it's never known stability. You pick at a crack in the wood. Nobody moves for a long time. Eventually, Cook pours everyone a cup of coffee. It tastes burnt and bitter, but at least it's hot. You sip it slowly, trying to wrap your head around the idea that the woman who ruled this house like a half-drunk queen is just gone. Do we tell someone? Betsy asks. Who? Jane says. The sheriff who pretends he doesn't come here twice a month? Fair point. So what now? Clara says. And that's the question, isn't it? What now? You take stock. The stove works. The house is standing. There's still flour in the bin, firewood in the pile, soap in the jar. You know how to run a shift. You know how to talk to men and manage coins and sew up a hem and scrub out a bloodstain without making a fuss. So, you keep going. Because what else is there? Jane takes the ledger. I'll handle the books, she says. No one argues. You go upstairs and strip the beds. You hang the sheets to air. You open the window in the front room just long enough to let the musty smell out and the sharp morning cold in. Clara cleans the front steps. Betsy mends the curtain tiebacks. Cook makes bread, just like she always does. By midday, it's like nothing changed. Except it did. You feel it in your spine. In the way the house doesn't quite breathe the same way. In the way everyone keeps glancing at the door, like maybe she'll come back, shouting about boots on the rug or candles left burning. But she doesn't. You get one visitor that night. A regular. He doesn't ask for Mrs. Briggs. He doesn't even notice she's gone. He just takes off his coat, hands you a coin, and says, "Rough weather." You nod and say, "Sure is." You make it through the night. No one panics. No one falls apart. You divvy up the coins after he leaves and tuck them into the jar under the floorboard. Later, you lie in bed with your shawl still wrapped around you, listening to the wind push against the shutters. You stare at the ceiling and think, we could leave. But you don't. Not yet. Not tonight. You're still here. Still breathing. Still holding the house together with spit and thread and stubbornness. That's worth something. Sleep now. Tomorrow's got questions, and you'll need your wits. The house doesn't fall apart. That's the first surprise. Mrs. Briggs leaves, and yet the walls stay up, the stove still works, and somehow, breakfast still happens. No one burns the place down. No one gets arrested. No one runs screaming into the woods. At least not yet. The second surprise? You feel lighter. Not happy. Not free. But lighter. Like someone took a brick off your chest that you didn't know was there until it was gone. There's no shouting today. No clacking of boots down the hall, demanding this or that. No checklists, no inspections, no cold eyes watching how many coins end up in which pockets. It's quiet. Really quiet. You don't know what to do with that. You start the morning slow. You eat a whole biscuit without interruption. You drink 2 cups of coffee. You sit on the porch steps and let the sun hit your face through the haze of melting snow. You hear the town waking up, the blacksmith banging, the church bell ringing once, a wagon wheel creaking over the ruts in the road. Life keeps going. It always does. Clara finds a pencil and starts tallying expenses on the back of an old newspaper. You look over her shoulder. Laundry soap, she says, writing it down. Tooth powder, you add. She nods. Whiskey, Jane says from behind you. Everyone laughs. A real laugh. Not bitter. Not fake. A sharp, sudden laugh that feels strange in your throat. Like something you haven't used in months. By mid-morning, Betsy's taken charge of the linens. Jane's handling visitors. Clara's setting up a rotation for cleaning, and Cook is too busy baking bread to question why there's suddenly a meeting happening in the parlor. No one says it out loud, but it's obvious. You're running the place now, together. Sort of. Not officially, not neatly, but enough. A man knocks on the door around noon. Young. Nervous. He's holding a sack of flour and a tin of lamp oil. Says his mother sent him. You give him a slice of bread and a smile, and watch him turn red as a tomato before he runs off. Later that day, another man comes by asking if Miss Briggs is in. You tell him she's gone to visit family out east. He nods slowly, like he doesn't believe you, but also doesn't care enough to ask questions. You let him in. He pays. He leaves quiet. You're starting to think this might actually work. That maybe, just maybe, you can do this without her. That night, you count the day's coins on the kitchen table, surrounded by the girls, the fire crackling, and the smell of fresh bread still lingering in the air. You each take a share. Not much, but more than before. Enough to matter. You wrap yours in a bit of cloth and hide it under the loose board behind the stove. Same spot as always. Just feels different now. Like maybe it's actually yours. You sleep well that night. Not because everything's fixed. Not because it's easy. But because the worst didn't happen. And sometimes that's enough. The ceiling's still cracked. The floor's still cold. But the silence tonight? It doesn't feel like waiting. It feels like peace. Sleep now. You've earned it. Tomorrow, we build something. Even if it's just out of splinters. Morning comes with sun. Actual sun. gold and warm and blinding through the rip in the curtain that no one's bothered to fix, because the light usually doesn't matter. But today it pours in like someone opened heaven and let it spill across your bed. You blink, squint, throw your arm over your face. You're not used to waking up like this. Your bones still ache. Your neck's still stiff. But for once, the day doesn't feel like a punishment. You sit up slowly. You stretch until your shoulder pops. You roll your feet against the floor and realize with no small amount of joy that it's not freezing. Your toes aren't screaming. Your breath isn't fogging in front of your face. You look over. Clara's already gone. Her side of the bed is a mess of hairpins, stocking threads, and that ratty scarf she won't throw away. You don't know how she moves so quietly in the morning. It's either a gift or a threat. You head downstairs and find the kitchen alive. Cook's baking something that smells like honey and vinegar. Mustard bread, maybe. Clara's boiling water. Jane's at the window, combing her hair and humming a tune you don't recognize. Even Betsy looks alert, her sleeves rolled up and her chin lifted like she's ready to start a revolution, or at least clean the front parlor without swearing. Something's different today. You feel it in the air. Hope? Maybe not quite that, but close. Hope's cousin, maybe. Something thinner, quieter, but there. You eat your bread in silence, soaking up the warmth from your mug and the heat from the stove. You let yourself enjoy it. No one rushes you. Then you all get to work. Clara drafts a list of what you need from town. Jane starts reorganizing the pantry, complaining about the smell the whole time. Cook pulls out the good tinware and starts scrubbing it like she's got something to prove. You clean the parlor, top to bottom. You dust the shelves. You fluff the pillows. You even sweep under the rug, which hasn't been moved in months, and reveals a colony of dust bunnies that could unionize if you gave them a name. You open the windows, just a crack, to let in fresh air. It smells like melting snow, damp earth, and chimney smoke. Not bad, actually. You take the laundry out back and hang it in the sun. Your hands still hurt from the scrubbing, but the warmth on your face makes up for it. You pause for a second, just one, and tilt your head back, eyes closed, letting the sun wash over your cheeks. You try not to cry. You don't succeed, but no one sees, so it doesn't count. In the afternoon, 2 regulars stop by, both quiet, both respectful. One of them brings a jar of peach preserves and says it's for the girls. You split it evenly and eat it with a spoon like royalty. It's sticky, sweet, golden. It might be the best thing you've tasted all year. Later, Jane finds an old hairbrush buried in a drawer and polishes the handle until it shines like silver. Clara pins up her hair in a new style she saw in a magazine clipping. Betsy reads a section of a tattered etiquette manual aloud until you all laugh so hard the neighbors could probably hear. You're still poor, still cold, still tired. But tonight, the house doesn't feel like a cage. It feels like a home, a crooked, creaky, stubborn little home. And that's more than most get. You fall asleep before the fire burns out, blanket tucked up to your chin, hands folded over your stomach like you're guarding something precious. You don't dream. You don't need to. You're already living through something almost like one. Sleep now. The worst part of winter might be behind you. You made it, and you didn't do it alone. You wake up before the light, not because anyone's calling for you, Not because the stove banged or the roof creaked. You just wake. Like your body decided it was done resting, like something pulled you up from the deep, whether you asked or not. You lie there a minute, listening to the stillness. It's warm in the room. Not hot, not summer warm, but livable. Your breath doesn't fog. The window isn't frosted. Your feet aren't begging for socks before they hit the floor. You sit up, slowly. Your back groans. Your legs stretch. You notice Clara's snoring quietly. Her arm flopped across your side like she forgot she wasn't sleeping on a hay bale. You nudge her off, and she rolls with a grunt, pulling the blanket over her face like she's blocking out the entire world. You don't blame her. Downstairs, the stove is already crackling. Cook must be up. The smell of coffee drifts through the hallway, and for a moment, you just stand there and let it wrap around you like a second shawl. You follow the scent to the kitchen. The fire is strong today. You nod to Cook. She nods back. She hands you a mug before you even ask. This is your language now. No pleasantries, no fuss, just hot liquid and shared glances. You take a sip and feel the heat bloom down your throat. It's strong, bitter, burnt, perfect. Jane stumbles in next, muttering something about dreams and thieves and a man with no hands. You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs and pours her own coffee. It made more sense in the dream. You sit at the table. For once, there's no hurry. You eat toast, dry but buttered. Real butter. From the jar, Cook's been hiding behind the sack of flour for a week now. She acts like it appeared by magic. You don't ask. You just savor every crumb. You all talk about spring, casual, careful. Like if you say it too loud, the cold will hear and come back with a vengeance. You talk about maybe planting something, a pot of herbs, a window box, nothing big. Jane says she wants basil. Clara votes for mint. You suggest onions, practical, humble, no fuss. No one disagrees. That afternoon, you sweep the front steps. It's the first time you've seen them clear in weeks. No ice, no snow, just wood, cracked, weathered, sun-dappled. It feels like seeing an old friend's face after a long illness. You wipe the window glass until you can see your reflection again. You look older than you feel. Or maybe you feel older than you look. Hard to say. You smile at yourself anyway. One of the girls finds a bird's nest tucked in the corner of the eaves. 3 little eggs inside, tiny, blue, warm. She squeals like a child and calls you over. You all take turns looking at it, like it's a treasure, like it's a sign. Maybe it is. Maybe things are changing. In the evening, someone brings a fiddle. You don't ask who. You don't care. He plays soft at first, nothing fancy. Just a tune you half recognize from the saloon across town. Then Clara hums along. Then Jane claps in rhythm. Then you all end up dancing in your stockings on the parlor rug, laughing so hard your ribs ache. No men tonight. No visitors. Just the girls. Just the sound of laughter and the smell of bread baking and the creak of the boards under your feet. You haven't felt joy like this in months, maybe longer. When you finally collapse into bed, your hair is wild, your feet are sore, and your face hurts from smiling. You wrap the blanket around your shoulders like armor and close your eyes. The house is quiet, but not empty, not lonely, just resting, like you. Sleep now. You deserve this night, every second of it. You wake to birdsong, not the desperate kind that shrieks before a storm, or the lonely chirps that echo through a half-dead winter morning. No, this is light, quick, chatty, like the birds are gossiping about your laundry hanging crooked on the line. You lie there for a moment, just listening. The window's cracked open. A breeze carries in the smell of thawed earth, wood smoke, and something sweet. Maybe plum blossoms, maybe just soap from yesterday. The mattress creaks when you shift. Your hips sore, your back stiff, but the air isn't cold. That alone feels like a miracle. Clara's already gone. Her side of the bed is messy, warm, empty. You find one of her socks halfway under your pillow and flick it to the floor. You stretch, you yawn. You blink slowly toward the ceiling knot that's watched over you for months. Still looks like a cat. Some things don't change. Downstairs, the house is alive with soft motion. Not frantic, not loud, just moving. Cook is humming in the kitchen. Not a tune you recognize, but she's on key today, which usually means she slept through the night and didn't dream about her dead husband or tax collectors. You pour your own coffee. It's strong, hot, slightly bitter, but in a comforting way, like someone told it life was hard and it decided to lean into it. You sit in the kitchen as the girls come in, one by one. Jane has bed hair that looks like she fought raccoons in her sleep. Clara's still chewing on a crust of bread she probably took from the counter before she even had shoes on. Betsy is surprisingly clean. She washed her face with rose water and put on her best apron. You glance at her, curious. "Going somewhere?" you ask. She shrugs. "Just pretending." Fair. Pretending helps. Breakfast is eggs. Real eggs, not powdered, not imaginary. Actual eggs with soft yolks and crackly whites that stick to the skillet. Cook serves them on chipped plates like it's the Queen's birthday. You all eat slowly. No rush. You talk about the dressmaker down the road who might be selling extra fabric, about the wagon wheel ruts getting deeper, about the man who walked past yesterday with a parrot on his shoulder. Life stuff. Small, ridiculous, important stuff. In the afternoon, you help Clara hang the last of the clean sheets out back. The sun warms your arms. Your fingers don't sting. You don't even care when the wind knocks one into the mud. You just re-wash it, laughing the whole time like you've got extra time to spare. Later, Jane brings out the record box. Just a tin full of crumpled notes and names and receipts you've been meaning to sort. You sit in the parlor, all of you cross-legged on the floor, separating the coins from the IOUs and the real names from the fake ones. One of the names catches your eye. Handwritten. Neat. A man who used to come here every Wednesday. Always brought a book. Always asked for the same girl. You realize you haven't seen him in months. He die? You ask out loud. Jane shrugs. Or ran out of money. You nod. Same difference. By sundown, the wind changes, a little sharper. Still smells like dirt and thaw, but now with a trace of something wilder. Maybe a storm on the way, maybe just a shift in the season. You light the lamps early. You eat dinner slowly. Stew, heavy with beans and carrots and mystery meat. It's hot. It's fine. It's enough. You write a letter after supper. To no one. To yourself, maybe. Just something to put your thoughts on paper before they calcify. You fold it, slip it into your boot, and forget about it almost immediately. At bedtime, you wash your face with warm water. You braid your hair. You lie down on the bed and pull the blanket up all the way to your chin. Your feet are warm for once. You sigh into the pillow. You let the silence settle over you. Not the bad kind, the good kind, the earned kind. Tomorrow might be harder or better. You don't know, but you're still here, still surviving, still you. Sleep now. The world will wait. You wake up to thunder. Not the distant kind that rolls gently over hills like a tired giant turning over in his sleep. Number. This thunder is close, sharp, like the sky just split open right above the roof. You blink, wait for the second rumble. It comes fast, loud enough to rattle the window pane and send a dusty curtain hook tumbling to the floor. Rain follows a moment later, fast and heavy, pounding the roof like 1,000 tiny fists. It slides down the walls in rivulets and drums against the shutters like it's trying to get in. You groan, roll over, and see that Clara is already awake. She's sitting up in bed, hair frizzing in every direction, rubbing her eyes like she's trying to erase the noise out of her skull. She meets your gaze and says what you're thinking. Damn. Downstairs, Cook has already lit the stove, but it's struggling against the damp air. Smoke curls lazily through the kitchen ceiling and clings to everything like an unwelcome hug. You cough. She curses. Jane fans the smoke with a dish towel that's already more whole than fabric. Breakfast is whatever didn't get soaked overnight. Dry toast, a chunk of hard cheese, and something that might have been a pear once, before time and mold turned it into a suggestion. Clara says it tastes like rot. You eat it anyway. You all do. The house is a mess of wet shoes, dripping cloaks, and buckets placed under all the usual leaks. One in the hallway, 2 by the stairs, 1 directly beneath the window in the parlor that's been about to be fixed since last fall. Betsy steps in the wrong spot and her entire boot disappears into a puddle. She screams. You laugh so hard you drop the broom. That's the good thing about days like this. Misery's so evenly spread that it almost becomes funny. Almost. There are no customers. Not in this weather. Nobody trudges through knee-deep mud and blinding rain to knock on a brothel door, not unless they've completely lost their mind or owe someone very scary a favor. So you clean. Again. Always cleaning. Clara starts reorganizing the jars of buttons in the sewing kit. Jane attempts to oil the piano keys, but mostly ends up cursing at the rust. You take apart the lamps and scrub the soot out with a rag that used to be a shirt. You find 3 buttons, a single earring, and what might be a tooth in the parlor rug. You decide not to ask questions. The storm doesn't let up. The rain just keeps falling, endless and rude. Outside, the street is a river. Mud slides from the bank. The outhouse tilts a little farther to the left. You all avoid eye contact about that. Dinner is soup. Barely. A handful of potatoes, some wilted greens, a dash of salt. You eat it in silence, grateful for the warmth more than the flavor. By candlelight, you sit with the girls and play cards. Not for money, just for pride. You lose every hand. Jane wins every hand. Betsy accuses her of cheating. Jane grins like the devil and says, "What? You think I'd cheat and still make you win 2 hands? Fair." Later you towel off the floor near the front door and change into a dry nightgown. The rain has softened now. It's not slamming anymore. It's whispering, tapping, settling in for a long stay. You lie down and pull the covers up to your chin. The air smells like wet wood and smoke and peppermint. You sigh. You stretch. You let your body sink into the bed, like you're finally allowed to rest. And maybe, just for a second, it feels like the world outside doesn't exist. Like there's no mud, no debts, no visitors, no rules. Just a roof, a fire, a few girls who haven't quit yet. Sleep now. The storm's not your problem tonight. Let the rain have the roof. You've got blankets. And that's enough. The storm passes sometime before dawn. You don't hear it leave. You don't see the sky crack open and the clouds slip away. But when you wake, the world is quiet, damp, soft around the edges, like it's exhaling after a tantrum. The air smells different, clean, like soaked wood and ash and something green just starting to grow. You roll over slowly. Your back's tight, one leg's asleep. You wince and wiggle your toes until the pins and needles die down. Then you sit up and listen. The house is still. No footsteps. No clatter from the kitchen. No coughing from the hallway. Just the faint creak of the wood settling around you. It's not peace exactly, but it's close. You get dressed without thinking. Layers, boots, shawl, habit. Downstairs, Cook is stirring something in the pot with one hand and drinking straight from a chipped mug with the other. She sees you and lifts her chin. "Quiet morning," she says. You nod, then you both go quiet again. It's that kind of day. The fire is slow but steady. The floor is cool under your boots. The table is dry for once. No leaks, no puddles, no buckets in sight. You almost don't know what to do with yourself. You eat porridge, thick, plain, faintly gritty. You add a spoon of sugar and pretend it's a treat. Jane comes in with damp sleeves and mud on her skirt. "I walked to the post," she says. No letters. No one was expecting any. But still, she says it like it matters, like someone somewhere is still thinking about you all, even if they're not. You nod. Later, you sweep the parlor again, even though there's nothing to sweep. The motion feels good, simple, predictable. Your hands know what to do, even if your brain hasn't quite caught up with the quiet. Clara finds a bird in the pantry. A real one. Small, brown, feathers ruffled like it fought the storm and lost. It flaps wildly at the window until Betsy throws open the shutters and lets it escape in a whirl of feathers and dust. You all watch it disappear into the trees. No one says anything. Then Jane mutters, "Wish I was that bird." You all nod, not even dramatically, just honestly. That afternoon, the ground is too soft for visitors, but you clean the guest room anyway. You find a hairpin in the corner, a boot scuff by the bed, a handkerchief folded neatly under the pillow like someone meant to come back for it. You put it in the drawer, just in case. Dinner is warm, biscuits and gravy, nothing fancy, but enough. You sit around the table without much to say. The windows are open just a crack, and the breeze doesn't sting anymore. It just moves, gentle and curious. Jane tells a story about a man who used to come here just to hear her sing. "Didn't even touch me," she says, like it still confuses her. "Maybe he just liked the sound of you," Clara says. Jane laughs, but soft, like maybe she liked it too. You all sit a little longer than usual. No one rushing, no one checking the clock. Just being. When it's finally time to sleep, you don't bother with the usual checklist. You just crawl into bed, still wearing your socks, and close your eyes. The sheets are dry. The pillow's cool. The knot in the ceiling looks more like a cat than ever. You sigh. And for once, you're not waiting for the next disaster. You're just here. Still standing, still breathing. Still you. Sleep now. The world didn't end today. Let that be enough. The sun wakes you this time. Not the alarm kind. Not sharp or loud or aggressive. Just light. Gentle, golden. Warm through the rip in the curtain like someone's brushing your cheek with the edge of a clean sheet. You open your eyes slow. You stretch one leg, then the other. Your neck doesn't even crack today. It's quiet, but not the bad kind. The house is breathing again. Soft footfalls. A chair creaking. A pot clanging against the stove in that familiar rhythm. Wake, cook, survive. Clara's still asleep beside you. Curled on her side, lips parted, face tucked into the crook of her arm like she's trying to keep the dreams in. She doesn't stir when you slip out of bed. Downstairs, the kitchen smells like cinnamon. You pause in the hallway and breathe it in. Hot, sticky, and comforting. It smells like your neighbor's kitchen back home, or your mother's on holidays. Or maybe it just smells like someone trying really, really hard to make things feel normal. Cook sees you and waves you toward the table. Don't say anything, she mutters. You sit. You don't. The bread's still warm. The sugar's real. You don't ask where she got it. You just eat until your fingers are sticky and your eyes sting a little from the heat and the sweetness and the fact that, just for a moment, it tastes like something good. Jane comes in with a ribbon in her hair. A ribbon. Red. Frayed. Stupidly bright. You blink at it. She shrugs. Found it under the floorboard. She's smiling like a child who found treasure in the yard. And in this house, maybe that's exactly what it is. The day moves slow. In a good way. You wash windows with Clara while she tells you about a man she once met who swore he could tell the weather just by sniffing the air. You believe her. She has that way of speaking where even nonsense sounds like fact. Betsy airs out the sheets. Jane reorganizes the pantry. Cook sits on the back step and peels potatoes like she's meditating. The sun stays up. The wind stays soft. The chickens down the road don't scream once. You do get a visitor. Just one. An older man, quiet hands, soft boots, a coin in his palm before he even says hello. He asks for no one in particular. You draw straws. Clara goes. She comes back an hour later with red cheeks and a dazed smile. Did he cry? Jane asks. Twice, Clara says. Everyone nods like that explains everything. You make stew for dinner. Real stew. Carrots, salt, even a bay leaf someone swiped from town. It tastes like something you didn't have to earn. And that's rare. You play cards again. Betsy wins. You're pretty sure she cheats, but you let it go because her laugh is too good to interrupt. Afterward, you sit on the porch with your shawl around your shoulders and your knees pulled up to your chest, watching the sky shift from gold to pink to soft navy blue. The street is still muddy. The outhouse is still leaning. The upstairs window still doesn't shut all the way. But none of that matters tonight. Not really. Not while you sit there with the girls. Not while the sun sets like it forgives everything. Not while your belly is full and your socks are dry and your fingers still smell like cinnamon. You head to bed when the stars show up. One by one, like old friends you haven't seen in months. The mattress is lumpy. The sheets are uneven. But you sink in like you belong here, like you built this life with your own 2 hands. Because you did. You close your eyes. You let the silence take you. This isn't safety. Not exactly. But it's close. Close enough. Sleep now. You made it through another day. And today, you even smiled. You don't remember falling asleep. You just wake up already in the middle of it, like your body walked you down the hallway, up the creaky stairs, and into bed without bothering to ask permission. Your hair's tangled, your mouth's dry, your dress is still half buttoned. You stretch, blink, roll onto your side, and there it is again. That feeling. Stillness. Not the dead kind. The good kind. The kind that feels earned. You lie there for a while, listening. The house isn't in a rush. The walls aren't groaning. No one's crying or slamming doors or muttering about a broken kettle. Just soft movement, fabric rustling, floorboards clicking, someone humming a half tune from the kitchen. You could stay here all day, but your stomach disagrees. So you sit up, rub your eyes, and shuffle out of bed like someone dragging an old quilt behind them. Your knees pop, your toes catch the edge of the rug. You curse under your breath and grin without meaning to. Downstairs, Cook's already 2 steps ahead. She sets a bowl in front of you without looking. Something warm and gray and vaguely sweet. Oats, maybe. Or barley. You eat it slowly and let the steam work its way into your face. Clara slides into the chair beside you, her hair still damp from washing. Jane comes in wearing someone else's slippers. No one asks whose. Betsy walks in last, yawning so wide her jaw clicks. Breakfast is quiet. No one talks about money, or men, or who's going into town. You just sit, spoons scraping gently, fire cracking, rain tapping at the window again, but not heavy, not threatening, just soft. Clara finally breaks the silence. I had a dream last night. We were all living in a tree. You blink. Jane snorts. Betsy says, "That doesn't sound so bad." You think about it for a moment. The height, the cold, the squirrels. You shrug. We've lived in worse. After breakfast, you tend the upstairs rooms. You fluff pillows that still smell faintly of old tobacco and expensive soap. You sweep crumbs out from under beds and straighten doilies that no one notices except the mouse that keeps living in the drawer. You find a scrap of paper tucked into a floorboard. Half a name. A smudge of ink. You stare at it for too long before folding it and slipping it into your apron pocket. Just in case. By midday, Jane's ironing a dress with a hot brick wrapped in cloth, mumbling about buttons and sweat. Clara is sitting on the porch, sewing up a hem with a needle she swears is cursed. Cook is napping upright in a chair, snoring like she's fighting ghosts. You go out back and check the rain barrel. Full. Cold. A few dead leaves floating on top. You dip your hands in anyway. Let the shock of it jolt you awake. Then wipe them on your skirt and breathe deep. The yard smells like damp earth and iron. You love it, even if you'll never admit it out loud. That afternoon, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the cracked mirror above the hallway table. You don't look young anymore, but you don't look broken either. There's a line near your mouth now, a little crease above your brow. You lean closer. You tilt your head. You touch the edge of your jaw and think, I'm still here. And for a moment, that's enough. Dinner is onion pie. Mostly crust, slightly burnt. You eat it with your fingers. Jane tells a story about a preacher's wife who once paid to sit in the parlor just to cry without anyone asking questions. Clara says she remembers that woman, wore lace gloves and drank a whole jar of brandied pears before noon. She tipped well, Betsy adds. Everyone nods. After supper, you sit with your hands wrapped around a cup of tea that tastes like bark and peppermint. The wind rattles the shutters once, then leaves them alone. You don't say much. You don't need to. The quiet feels earned again. At bedtime, you light a single candle. You don't bother trimming the wick. You pull the blanket up to your chin and stare at the ceiling like it owes you something. The cat knot is still there, still watching. You close your eyes. You let the weight of the day settle over you like a second blanket. Tomorrow will come. It always does. But tonight, you are dry. You are warm. You are here. Sleep now. The world outside can wait. You wake up before the light touches the window. No dream woke you. No sound. Just your body deciding it had enough rest and enough stillness, and now it was time to get up and be human again. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the softest creaks of a house that's been lived in too hard for too long. Someone is already moving around downstairs. The smell of coffee drifts up through the cracks in the floor like a promise. You sit up slowly. Your bones don't protest as loudly today. Your ankle still pops. Your wrist still aches from wringing out sheets yesterday. But overall, not bad. You've had worse. You dress with your usual routine. Shawl first, then apron. Boots still wet from yesterday. You put them on anyway, because you've also had wetter. You walk down the stairs with one hand on the rail, fingers trailing along the polished wood. It's smooth now, worn down to a shine by decades of people doing exactly what you're doing. Down in the kitchen, Cook nods without looking. You nod back. She's frying something today. Smells like onions. Smells like it's going to leave a scent in the walls that'll hang on for a week, maybe two. You eat without talking. Clara joins you, her eyes still half shut, hair stuffed under a cap. Jane's behind her, mumbling curses at a moth she claims bit her in her sleep. Betsy wanders in last, limping slightly from stepping on a nail 2 days ago, and still refusing to let anyone pull it out. You all eat together. The meal is hot, salty, heavy on the grease. Perfect. The day begins. Slowly. Gently. No chaos. No shouting. Just soft footsteps and quiet tasks. You scrub the wash basin until it stops smelling like whatever mystery stew got dumped into it last week. Clara takes inventory of the soap. What's left? What's watered down? What's turned into strange-smelling jelly? Jane mends the curtains, again, because that corner keeps falling down no matter how many nails you drive into it. And around mid-morning, the silence breaks. A knock, 3 short raps on the door. You all freeze for half a second, not from fear exactly, but from habit. That knock could mean anything. A customer, a taxman, a letter, a story. Jane answers. It's a young man, nervous, holding a wrapped bundle. Says his sister used to live here. Says she left behind something she might want back. He's not looking to buy anything. He's just returning a scarf. You stare at it for a moment after Jane closes the door. The scarf is blue, faded, edges frayed. You think you know who it belonged to. You wrap it up again and tuck it in the drawer under the tea towels. Maybe she'll come back for it. Maybe not. Either way, it's safe now. Afternoon comes with clouds, the kind that aren't sure what they want to be yet, storms or shade. You glance at the sky and decide it's not your problem. If it rains, it rains. If it doesn't, you're still going to mop the front hall anyway. Cook starts prepping dinner early. She found a jar of pickled something in the cellar and is determined to make it edible. You wish her luck, but keep your distance. You fold sheets instead, warm from the line, smelling like sunlight and smoke. Jane tells you about a man she once danced with in a field, just the two of them, no music, just frogs and wind and fireflies. She says she thinks about it sometimes, but not too often. You don't want to ruin it, she says. You nod. You get it. Some memories are like sugar cubes. Hold them too long and they melt. Supper is surprisingly good. Whatever that pickled thing was, it doesn't matter anymore. Cook buried it under enough butter and pepper to make it sing. You eat 2 servings. Clara burps. Jane throws a dish towel at her. Betsy starts laughing so hard she snorts stew through her nose. And for a second, just a second, the house feels younger, lighter, almost like it did back when everything wasn't so fragile. After dinner, you light candles around the parlor. You play cards until the wax drips low. No one cheats, or at least no one catches anyone. You say goodnight. You head upstairs. You change into your nightclothes slowly, deliberately. You wash your face with warm water and a rag that smells faintly of lavender and thyme. You sit on the edge of the bed. You breathe in. You let the day settle in your bones. Then you lie back. Pull the blanket over your chest. Close your eyes and let the silence hold you. Sleep now. Today didn't break you. That's enough. You wake up to laughter, not the kind that shrieks through the walls after too much whiskey, not the forced kind, not the desperate kind. This is soft, warm, real. You blink. Sunlight filters through the window like melted butter, golden and thick, glowing across the floor in slow, lazy streaks. You stare at it for a while, trying to remember the last time a morning started with something that wasn't pain or cold or someone yelling about a broken handle. Clara's already up. You hear her in the hallway, bare feet against the floor, humming something tuneless as she rummages through the old cedar chest. Probably looking for the lavender sachet she insists keeps moths away. It doesn't, but the smell's nice. You stretch. Your back makes 3 different sounds. You swing your legs off the bed, stand up slow, and crack your neck like you're wringing out laundry. Then you head downstairs, still yawning, arms tucked into your sleeves like you've got all the time in the world. Because today, maybe you do. In the kitchen, Cook is dancing. Not well, not to any music, but she's swaying side to side while peeling potatoes, and her apron's slightly crooked, and you can't tell if she's lost her mind or found peace. Either way, you sit down and let her keep going. Betsy walks in next with her arms full of fresh laundry, the soap's still clinging to her skin. Her sleeves are soaked, but she's smiling. "Sun's good today," she says, like it's news. And maybe it is. You eat bread and cheese for breakfast. Simple. The bread's soft. The cheese is sharp. Someone found a jar of apple jam in the pantry, and now the table smells like sugar and vinegar and a little bit of hope. The house feels lighter. Not new, not fixed, but less heavy. like the air decided to lift off your shoulders, just for a while. After breakfast, you help Clara reorganize the front room. You drag the armchair back to the window. You straighten the rug. You dust the piano that nobody's touched since January. Jane shows up with a bouquet of wildflowers she picked near the creek. They're half crushed and tangled with burrs, but she arranges them like they belong in a palace. The whole parlor smells like dirt and sweetness and damp stems. A knock at the door. A man with a tin of honey and a note. Says it's from his wife. "Thanks for the stitching," the note says. That's it. No name. Just that. You don't remember stitching anything for anyone's wife, but Clara does. She grins as she reads the note, then folds it small and puts it in the pocket of her apron. Doesn't say a word. Later, Jane finds the deck of cards again. You deal. She wins. Betsy wins. Clara wins. You lose every hand but don't mind a bit. The fire crackles. The sky shifts from gold to pale blue to deep navy, and nobody bothers to light the lamps until you're all squinting in the dim. You eat dinner late. Onion biscuits and stew again, but better this time. More salt, more warmth. Cook added something she won't name, and no one dares guess. You lean back in your chair after eating, belly full, legs stretched, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel like something's about to go wrong. You just feel tired, the good kind, the kind that means you worked, laughed, survived, the kind you can sleep off. Upstairs, you change in the dark. The bed's soft enough. The pillow's still lumpy, but the blanket is warm. The sheets are clean. The night is still. Outside, crickets chirp. Wind moves gently through the trees. You don't even hear the outhouse creak tonight. You close your eyes. Let your body sink into the quiet. Let yourself have this moment. Sleep now. You made it through another day. And this time, you did it laughing.